This is Justin.
And this is Haley. You're listening to The Price of Avocado Toast.
We're a married millennial couple wanting to normalize the conversations around money. We want to hear about your highs and your lows,
The do's and the don'ts on your path towards financial freedom. Hi Toasties, welcome to The Price of Avocado Toast, episode 14.
Whether you're a first-time listener or you've been following us from the start of this thing, we are so glad you're here for question and answer time tonight.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! So Haley and I were thinking, what would be a fun episode? And we were like, well, what if we took questions from people on Instagram or through the link in our bio and just answered a few questions that people had? It doesn't have to be anything long. We can just kind of clear things up, so if people want their question answered, and maybe somebody else has the same question, then we can clear things up for folks. So we decided episode 14 is going to be question and answer time.
Q&A time, baby.
Oh, yeah.
So we got tons of questions, but we are choosing our top 6 that we thought might be the most beneficial for all of you guys. Some of the other ones were a little more personalized, so I'm going to respond to those people directly. Mm-hmm. So the first question I have, which I have gotten a lot and I've actually thought a lot about myself, is asking us, would you guys ever consider moving out of California?
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard one.
That is a hard one. We really like where we live in Sonoma County and more, a little bit more expanded California. I mean, California is a really nice state to live in. We have great weather. We have a fantastic economy here. But there are issues with it between, some of the population. Like, it's super impacted in some places. And where we live, sometimes the roads can get a little frustrating.
A little bit? You are like the worst on the road.
Yeah. People just don't drive like they should. But we've been other places, and we've thought, wow, what a legit place to live. I remember when we went to Nashville, it was like, wow, this is a beautiful town. It'd be a lot of fun to live here. Now, that might have been because we were downtown on Broadway and doing the touristy thing. But Nashville would be fun. That'd be a really fun place to be.
We also, every time we go anywhere, we go on Zillow, and we're like, wow, this would be way more affordable than where we live. And we think about it for half a second, but I don't know that we would ever actually leave California. No. All of our families are here, and we like California, but I understand why people are leaving. Every time we go anywhere, I can see myself there. And we have discussed other places in California that are not as expensive as Sonoma County, but as far as we are concerned now, no, we would not be leaving California.
It's also nice because our California teaching credentials are really well invested in. California does a really good job training teachers. Yeah. So it's kind of nice because wages are relatively good here compared to other places in the country. So it'd be better for us financially to stay in California to make decent money.
Yeah. I talked to my brother today, and he was on the phone. He lives in Wyoming. And he was like, hey, you should move to Wyoming. It's really cheap here. And I was like, thanks, but first off, I want to live in suburbia. And second of all, I think I can say this because no one in Wyoming listens to our podcast. But I don't want to live in the middle of nowhere. There's literally nobody there.
And so we're not just saying that nobody in Wyoming listens to our podcast. We literally have a data analysis that says that nobody in Wyoming listens, which is really sad because that means that your brother's not listening.
But I have to say, every other state except for West Virginia is listening, so thanks, guys. But Wyoming, hard no, would never move to Wyoming.
Yeah,
definitely
no
not.
Yeah.
Pass on that one.
For sure.
What's the next question you've got for us?
So we got a question from our coach, Ryan. So shout out at Me Financially Free on Instagram. He's a rock star, and we got to meet with him today, and it was super cool talking with him after a couple weeks of just doing our thing. And his question was, what is the most profound thing that you have learned so far on your journey to become debt-free? Which is, at least for me, there's been so many different ones. So many different moments day to day where I recognize what's important to me or what's profound. And I've realized that the most profound thing to me has been contentment. When I got the money from the inheritance, I really felt like, wow, now I get to spend like I want and buy what I feel is important. And nobody mentioned my 2016 paid off RAV4, and nobody mentions my, 2009 Honda where the paint's peeling off of it and it looks like somebody's keyed the back
Yeah.
trunk. So, yeah, I would just say contentment is the most profound thing that I've been able to feel proud about on this journey. Yeah,
That's a really good one.
for sure.
And after you said that, I totally think that that's one of mine too. But for me, I think it sounds kind of stupid, but budgeting in general has been life changing, and it seems so simple. But we didn't do that before, and so after budgeting, everything changed. So that one little piece to the puzzle has been just mind blowing in what you can control with your finances.
I agree completely. So if you had to give somebody a 20-second elevator pitch on why they need a budget or what they should do to build a budget, what would you say?
Okay, get your phone out.
All right.
I need to stand up for this one.
20-second budget elevator speech. Ready? Go.
You need to have a budget because it's going to be life changing. And not only will it be life changing, but you will be in control of all of your finances. You will be able to do whatever you want. You can dream in HD and you will be able to. Okay, that's it.
Okay, 15 seconds. So 5 seconds left for.
I'm really bad at elevator pitches. Start that over. Start over. Go back. Where is it? There we go. Okay, ready? You go.
Okay. Are you starting?
Yes.
Okay. I think you need a budget because your finances could be doing so much better for you. You and your family deserve it. You deserve to have the life that you want. And one of the best ways you can get there is through budgeting and tracking what you're spending.
Time. Okay, clearly you're better than I am.
I just think you got to play on people's emotions.
You really, really went deep into the emotions there.
Because we lived that.
I mean, we did, but
hey, Justin
I was
and
way
Haley,
more
get a
excited,
budget.
but that didn't get me very far.
That's okay. Okay, next question. What do we have?
Okay. How I love this. How are you going to celebrate debt freedom? Okay, I have a few ideas, but one of them is that if we don't sell our timeshare or somehow get rid of our timeshare, get exited, by the time we're completely debt free, we're going to go use that. And we're going to hang out by the pool for probably 2 weeks because at that point we're going to have banked all of the points and we're going to get all inclusive the whole entire time and get 5-star massages and just eat all the food. That's totally going to happen if we still have the timeshare at that time.
Yeah, if we still have it. I'm going to try and get rid of it. So when we're debt free, the way that I want to celebrate is I'd like to have a nice dinner at home that we pay for in cash, don't finance. And then I want to go to sleep that night and wake up in the morning and just have a cup of coffee.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And then Dave Ramsey always mentions going outside when you finally own your home and standing on the grass, like just in your bare feet, because the ground feels a little different. And we won't own our home necessarily when we're like consumer debt free and free of student loans. But I think I'll do something like that. Like, I don't know, I might go and just like sit in my car. Or like, I don't know. I don't want a lot of fanfare because like internally is how I'm going to feel it. You know, if that kind of makes sense.
It totally makes sense.
I don't know. That's maybe
that's
not
your way of celebrating?
Maybe that's not the best answer. We're going to buy $20 bottles of champagne and we're going to drink them within an hour span, and I'm going to ruin New Year's like I did every New Year's we've been together. So maybe that's the plan. Let's not be debt free by New Year's so that I can ruin New Year's again.
That sounds like a fun time.
Well, maybe.
You guys, Justin's birthday is tomorrow when this airs, and he's turning 29 and mighty fine. And I keep asking him what he wants for his birthday, and he won't even let me cook breakfast tomorrow morning because he is so, I guess, content with his life.
Content?
He's the breakfast maker, and he's not going to let me buy anything for his birthday. Calliope and I are going to have to get real crafty tomorrow with a birthday card. But, yeah, you are definitely content. And
You
apparently
guys,
basic because you just want to stand in the grass after we get debt free. I thought you'd want to party a little more than that.
no, you guys are gift enough for me.
You're too sweet. What's
It
the
is
next
what it is.
question we've got here?
Okay, so next question is another one from Instagram. This was from Living on a Low Budget. And they said, what is the biggest money mistake you've made in the past? Wow. If you've listened to some of the episodes, we've kind of laid them all out here. So there's a bunch. The biggest one would probably have to be something that cost us the most money. And the one thing that's cost us the most money was the inappropriate way that we took out and used student loans.
Mm-hmm.
So Haley and I both got our master's in teaching, and that was combined with a credential program. So it was 18 months for the program, and it was about $48,000 for the program. However, if you volunteered 3 hours a week at a Catholic school, because it was a Jesuit program, you could get a 40% tuition discount. So it comes out to, I think it was somewhere around like $24,000 for the program if you did the discount. Well, the way that they do it basically is you take out loans, or we took out loans, paid for the semesters, and then once we got our Catholic tuition rate, they send you back money. Now, the smart thing would have been to take those checks, put them in our bank, and immediately apply them to student loans to pay off the loans, because that's theoretically what those checks were doing. It was back pay. But instead, we subsidized our lifestyle and lived off of those. So when we could have had half as much debt as we have now, we didn't. And we lived off of those checks. And I think many people in the program did.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's our biggest money mistake in my eyes. What about you?
I definitely would agree with that,
Mhm.
but I'm going to go with the second biggest one. But I do want to piggyback off of the student loans.
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing undergrad and even at the master's program that we went to, everyone was doing that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So many of you can resonate with this. When you got your refund checks, you probably didn't go on My Federal Loan and submit the entire refund check onto the loan. You paid your rent with it, because we have this idea that we need to live off of these loans because we can't work or we're not willing to work. And so that was definitely one of the biggest mistakes for sure. But the second one was buying the Forerunner. And because we, again, if you haven't listened, you don't know our whole story, and we've got quite the story, guys. Go back to episodes 1 and 2 to hear our whole entire story. But we bought a brand new 2018 Forerunner in 2018, and it was a beautiful babe. I loved it. It was my dream car. We ended up selling it this summer, actually, but that was a big mistake because we went in saying, hey, we're only going to take a $500 a month payment at the absolute most, and we walked out with, was it $680 or $780?
$673.
$673?
$673.
Why do I think? Okay, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, way more than we intended. So that was not a good one.
Do not finance cars. Do not finance cars.
Yeah.
Your total value of all of the vehicles in your home added up, not what you even owe, but what your car's value is. All of it added up should not be more than half of your annual income. For example, let's say Haley and I have a $100,000 annual income. Our two cars combined, their values should not be more than $50,000, because those cars depreciate in value. You don't need to have something that carries that much of your net worth or your value. You simply don't. You would be better served saving that money and investing it and using it wisely in other areas. So, don't finance a car. And whatever car you do own, make sure it's appropriate and that it's not, a lifestyle that's going to put you in jeopardy.
Do you remember when we got the Forerunner and then you and your brother went to go pick something up, I think the day after we got it, or like the second day we brought it home, and you put something in the back, and it's, when you were taking it out of the back of the car, it scraped the bumper.
Yeah.
I about lost my myself. I was so heartbroken because it was such an expensive car, and all of a sudden there was a scratch on it, and it was imperfect. But that's what happens with cars. They get worn. You drive them. Rock hits the windshield, and it cracks, or, or you total your car. I mean, life happens. So, I don't know. I put that car, like, on a pedestal of, like, oh, it's just, this car's amazing, the most beautiful thing we own. But we didn't own it, and, yeah, that was not a good one.
We eventually did own it because we took money out of our home and paid it off. But epic mistake after epic mistake.
One after another.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I have another question coming in from Instagram as well. It is, how and when did you combine bank accounts? This person says that they are struggling to get their husband on board, so they are married. Okay, that's a hard one. Justin and I, we did things very, very, very backwards. He got a $600,000 inheritance when he and I had just been dating for like a real hot minute. And then I think, moved in after dating for like 3 months. We moved in together. And then all of a sudden we had joint bank accounts probably that summer, a couple months later. So I definitely hard no on that one. Do not recommend that. Obviously, we are married. Neither one of us screwed the other one over, but that would have been way easy to do if we were evil people. I'm not saying to this person that their significant other is evil, because they obviously married them, so I hope they're not evil. But, yeah, we did it way early on, and I do not recommend that. But when you're married, you actually have a lot to say about marriage and sharing bank accounts. But I don't recommend at all before you're married, or at least if you're living together and you're engaged, then I would say that that's an appropriate time to share an account, because you're transitioning into that life together. But when you're dating and you have no connection, like a permanent connection with this person, do not tie your finances up with them, because no joke, Justin gave me his card. I don't remember if this was a credit card or his debit card. Probably was a credit card. He gave me his card when we went and moved in together and was like, here, buy whatever you want at Bed Bath & Beyond. And I came home with like $500 worth of kitchen stuff. So it's just not a good idea.
Yeah. So I have two things to say. The first one is, when you go from being, a boyfriend, girlfriend couple, and you actually get married, the saying is, you go from speaking English to speaking French, because it's first all about me and you, and now it's all about we. You're speaking we a lot. And I know that's funny, but that's the truth. Everything you do is we. I don't make a single decision in my day without thinking how it affects you and how it affects Calliope. I don't. You guys are at the front of every single decision, and that's important. And that includes financial decisions. Now, the second thing is, a friend of mine on Twitter recently posted, some of y'all don't combine finances with your partner, and I think it must suck to not trust one another.
Ooh.
I know. And tons of people hopped in his mentions. Like, no. My wife and I have been doing it like this for 20 years, and it totally works, and this is how. And then, there's some people that I respect and trust on there, and that's their way of doing things. But then there was this other subset, and they're going, I just don't want to have to explain myself every time I make a purchase. And I wanted to go, hey, homie, that's called trust. You don't trust that your partner won't get upset. Your partner does not trust you in your spending. So I think there is a logistical or a logical argument there that there's some kind of disconnect with trust. Now, some people have been doing it for 20 years and it's worked for them, and that's awesome. But if it works for you because your argument is, I don't want to have to answer to my spouse, then I'm going to tell you, you don't need financial help. You got to talk about some other stuff. And that's hard to hear.
Yeah.
But there's a miscue. There's a misfiring somewhere.
I kind of want to defend the people that don't want to explain to their spouse a little bit, and then I'm going back on it. But maybe they are embarrassed of their spending. And it has nothing to do with the spouse, but they are they don't trust themselves, and they don't want to have to explain that they went crazy on Amazon and impulse bought all of these things. Because I think a lot of finances does come from owning up to yourself and your spending habits and the relationship you've built with money. And for me, I was a big impulse buyer, an online shopper. Like, spending money releases so many endorphins in me. I love spending money. But now that I've switched how I do that, I still love spending money. Like, I am hyped on Christmas this year, but it's going to be done a little bit differently. When before it was like, I need this right now, I go buy it, go buy it, go buy it, go buy it. And so maybe those people really, if that's you, if you are buying stuff and you are embarrassed or you don't want to share that with your partner, then I encourage you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, what is my relationship with money? Is this a healthy one? Is it an unhealthy one? Do I feel like I have no control? Because if you have no control, then there's a problem. If you have a problem, you can message us on Instagram. We can kind of walk you guys through that. But yeah, I encourage you to really look at yourself.
You know, one of the good arguments that I heard for why they keep them separate was that both spouses had their own side hustle businesses and they ran them through their own personal accounts. And so that was an easy way for them to track it. And so that one I kind of was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But some of the others, yeah, it was just like, you know, somebody had said, you know, I don't want her snooping. And I'm sorry to use the word her, but many of the guys hopping on my buddy's Twitter mentions were men saying, I don't want her snooping at the gifts that I buy her. And, you know, you and I have done the thing where we just say, hey, you know, I'm checking the bank account if we need to check anything because I've purchased you something that I don't want you to go and see. And once it pops up, I'll go ahead and put it in the right category and then make sure it gets buried again so you don't go back and look. Please don't be Detective or Inspector Gadget. And, you know, that's it. It's all about talking, you know. It's not like you're oblivious to Mother's Day coming around the corner and me needing to buy you some things or, you know, doing something nice for one another at some point. That happens in life, and those are the things that make us feel good. And when we ruin the surprise or when we cut through that generosity or anything, it doesn't feel as great. So I think for both of us, it feels good if it's just up front, like, hey, you know, I've done something sweet for you or a gift, and don't check the bank account.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool, I won't.
And that has worked out well for us. And if you were thinking of buying something bigger that maybe comes from, like, if you're engaged, I'm thinking of before you get engaged. Like, if you're going to buy someone jewelry, like a ring or something from a jeweler, and it pops up on the bank account, it's K Jeweler. You could take out cash, do it that way, or you could have someone else buy it and you could Venmo them. There's ways to get around, like, big surprises and presents and stuff. But, yeah, definitely talk it out. And you should have budget lines for those items anyway, so it should be no big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like gifts or Christmas or Mother's Day, holidays or whatever. Yeah.
So if you need support or you want to talk about, you know, combining finances, reach out to us. That was a great question, though, and we hope that things, you know, get sorted out for you guys. But if you're doing them on your own and it works for you, we support you too, as long as you're talking, because that's the most important thing. All right, so this final question is a little bit bigger, and this one is really cool because we've been through it. So this person sent in the question with a little bit of backstory. It says, I have the money in savings to pay off my car loan and then still have money for a smaller emergency fund, which, if you need to ask Haley and I about emergency funds, 3 to 6 months of your expenses. Okay, back to the question. I just can't seem to pull the trigger and drop all that money. It's a big safety net that I've gotten used to seeing in my account. I know that the interest saved and the lack of car payments each month will be such a relief, but I'm struggling. How did you pull the trigger and dump your savings to pay off your loans without freaking out? And Haley, I want you to answer this question because you were the person who hit enter once we sold the 4Runner.
I did freak out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did freak out. So we have done this a couple times where we stacked up a bunch of money and kind of hoarded it for a minute. And that was partially because I just had a baby in December, so it was maternity leave, unsure of wages and how that was going to work out. And then also, when COVID happened, we were a little unsure of jobs. lost my job in February. So there were a couple reasons why we did that. But the first time I can think of it was when the 4Runner. So we sold the car for $32,000 and then paid off student loans with it. And yeah, I wanted to justify over and over and over, well, maybe we can pay off, I think this is only natural. Like, maybe we can pay off $30,000 and save 2 because you never know. Or maybe we can save 5. And that was really hard. I think just looking at the end goal was what got me to be content with it. Because the decision, I don't know if the person that submitted that question, if they have a partner, if they're married, or what their situation is, but having us work together and decide, like, okay, the reason we sold our car was so we can be debt free. And now our final end goal is to be debt free. And that has really helped. But again, when we put the money on student loans right when we were camping, we had a bunch of money that we had saved up while I was out on maternity leave. And then we put that all on student loans, completely depleting our emergency fund down to $1,000. And that, I think, was scarier than the 4Runner. Because when we sold the 4Runner, we still had a little bit of extra money cushioning in the bank for the fall, because I was not totally sure if I was going to go back to teaching or how that was going to work, if we were going to have to supplement it all. But when we took it to 1,000 and that's it, I went through everything in my head of all the things that could go wrong and how all of a sudden our dog's probably going to get hit by a car. We're going to owe all this money. But just looking at the end goal, we want to be debt free. And it took a lot of faith. Like, that was scary. But I believe that we're doing this for the right reasons. And I know that the end will be so worth it. And so far, that decision to be down to 1,000 has not screwed us over.
No.
We have had to dip into it a couple times, and then it's right back. So
Yeah, and that's what I would say. You know, you were the one who submitted all those payments, so maybe you felt the weight of hitting enter and paying all that off. But I remember when you paid off the car, you texted me. I was going to work, and I got the text as I'm parking, and it says, like, I can't believe how good this feels. And, like, that was so cool for me, just knowing that you were so on board with it and knowing that it was the right decision for us. And I think whoever is listening that asked this question, or if you're somebody who's considering this, you know, be aware that your emergency fund is going to get replenished.
Oh, yeah.
Things in life happen and things get in the way, but you'll be surprised at how quick it comes back. And I think that they're going to feel this intensity and this excitement that is going to get them to bust in tail for that emergency fund. And what a cool feeling. You don't owe anybody money, and all you get to do is stash it away so that life is easier for you. I mean, what a treat. Like, breathe that in for a second. That is cool. You don't owe anybody anything. That's an awesome feeling. So, you know, I would say don't worry about that emergency fund getting lower, because you're going to have some time to replenish it, and sell stuff if you're worried. Sell stuff to save you a couple extra bucks and make some money off that. Pick up a couple extra shifts at work if you can. See if you can work overtime for a week, right? A week's worth of overtime is going to be hard, and it's going to be beating up your body a little bit. You might be tired, but then you get that emergency fund back up and you sleep all weekend, and you just love it. I think that's awesome. And if you're, you know, listening to this, send us a message when you make that final car payment to get rid of that thing, because we'll have a drink here at the house for you and celebrate you. We're proud of you. That just rocks.
Yeah, that's awesome. There was a girl that was in the podcasting course that I took who had one final credit card to pay off.
That's awesome.
I think it was like $5,000, but in her savings she had $8,000, and which now I understand how lopsided that is, but I remember thinking the other way around. But taking that savings and paying off the card completely was such a cool feeling for her. She finally texted me and was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. It's just so cool. I'm finally debt free. I have no more credit cards. Like, yes.
Yeah.
And she still had a little bit of, like, she had like $3,000 or whatever in her emergency fund.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, a $1,000 emergency fund can cover a lot of what we call emergencies in our life. Very rarely do we face true emergencies. Well, we face our hiccups, but because we don't know how to save money, they become emergencies. A $400 issue, hiccup, is not really an emergency in life. It's just something where you might need to shell out a little extra cash, so then you stash it back up. Very rarely do we face those emergencies. And when we do face many of them, we've got things in place to help. A medical insurance, a car insurance, things like that help us in those moments. Very rarely are we facing something over $1,000. So,
sure.
Unless you're a homeowner, which hopefully you have, homeowners insurance.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, that's awesome. You guys, thank you so much for those questions. That was really fun getting a few moments to talk about those. I know that Haley and I have answered questions for folks through Instagram, but we wanted to do a more targeted episode on it. So if you have questions, don't hesitate. Check out our link in our Instagram bio. You can go to the link tree and give us some other questions or ideas that you want us to speak on for the podcast. But Q&A was fun. I think we'll definitely have to do some more Q&A moving forward.
This was fun. And let us know what you thought of this episode. It's a little shorter than the ones that we've been doing. Did you like the length? Let us know. Did you like the content? Let us know. If you did not vibe with it, let us know. We want this to be an episode or a podcast for you. It's fun for us, but we want you guys to enjoy listening as well. And before we wrap up, happy birthday, honey.
Hey, thanks, honey.
29.
Yeah, when you guys are listening into this, it's going to be my 29th birthday. So shout out to my wonderful twin brother, Jared. I love you. You're a rock star. Happy birthday, dude. And yeah, exciting stuff. So that's going to be a wrap on this episode of The Price of Avocado Toast. As always, we are super glad to have Q&A time with you guys, and we are super proud to be a part of this community. Happy budgeting.
You've got this, Toasties. Thank you for listening to The Price of Avocado Toast. If you vibed with this episode, share it with a friend. We'd love to continue building our listening community.
If you're interested in speaking more with a financial coach, hit up our coach Ryan at MeFinanciallyFree on Instagram. Use the promo code HELP50 in the consultation notes section to receive 50% off.